I was born in Pittsburgh during the war in 1943. My grandmother lived with us. My dad was off in the Navy. This is when we lived on Phillips Avenue. There's a picture of me and Iris. In 47, my brother Ron was born. There we are in the Gordon Apartments. We moved to Terrace Court Apartments in 48. We spent a lot of time taking vacations to Florida and Atlantic City. My dad was a businessman. He was in the toy business. At 13, I had my bar mitzvah. There I am in a clip. In 51, I started going to Camp Linwood, and I spent the next 9 years there. Here I am as a counselor at Linwood in 1960. I graduated from Taylor Alderdice in 1960, went to Case, was a member of the Sami fraternity. I spent a summer in Israel. I was involved with activities like homecoming. That's my friend Barry Berman, who helped me through my physics curriculum. There I am at graduation with my mother and my grandmother, Menicha.
I was born in Rogers Park, Chicago. My dad was a grad student. I was a great fan of my little wooden wagon that my dad made during the war because he had no metal. My sister and I lived in Davidson. We couldn't roller skate on North Main, but we got to dress up for church on Sunday. Our favorite thing was the woods. And in the 9th grade, we built a house. There we are, and there's the house. My dad made sure we weren't afraid of snakes. And my mother made sure we got to go to music camp. I was the only violinist in town, so when Isaac Stern came, I was the photo op. There I am in my felt skirt. I was also a singer. And these are my beloved Magnolia friends in high school. And then off I went to college, and a new life began.
Joan and I met in Queretaro, teaching at Escuela JFK.
This was the hacienda that was the school. There's our elementary class. We had a wonderful time at this old, very cold school. We put on Hansel and Gretel, and we celebrated all the American holidays like Halloween. It was a place we had dinners at our apartment, and here's a map of the city.
Queretaro is well known for its aqueduct, cactuses. I'm picking cactus there. We did travels all around.
We traveled to Guanajuato. We traveled to Pátzcuaro here, the Niñas at Janitzio. Beautiful, beautiful places. We were so thrilled with Mexico,
we had a
discovering
good chance to travel south to Oaxaca and Tehuantepec. Here we are in Acapulco, which we went to several times.
University campus was brand new, all the beautiful, still beautifully colored murals.
This is the National Archaeological Museum, which opened when we got there in '64.
Irwin and Xochimilco and Tehuantepec pyramids. And then we spent the summer in San Miguel studying Spanish and playing string quartets with Leonard Brooks and visiting El Cortijo Chico, the hot springs. Here we are at our wedding at Earlham College in a blue dress that I made all by myself. Irwin's parents with my parents standing out in front of the meeting house.
Irwin's uncle and aunt came.
My cousin was bashing the piñata that I had brought from Mexico. There's everybody picking up the candy. My aunt and uncle had a rehearsal dinner for us. There's my grandmother washing the dishes. And there's Roger and Irwin's aunt and uncle and my dad and my grandfather, who died at 103, hosted a party for us before the wedding. And we're off on our honeymoon to Canada.
We stopped off in Cleveland. I took Joan to my favorite art museum, the Cleveland Museum of Art. We stayed that night with my art professor, Harvey Buchanan, and his wife, Penny. Then we went on to Niagara Falls.
And there we are, being honeymooners at Niagara Falls, taking our beautiful photos and enjoying the cool weather that Canada brought. And then we were off camping in Montreal. We learned very easily how to put up a tent. Oh, there's Irwin taking pictures.
It seemed kind of like fall back in late August, but that was quite nice. We continued up to Lac Saint-Jean, continued camping until we got to...
We had a wall tent my dad had given us, and we had warm clothes, and then suddenly we were back in
Quebec, a very charming city. Joan could hardly speak the French language. Then we headed down...
They can't speak French.
Then we headed down towards Maine, crossed over, went through New England. One of our stops was at Walden Pond. Then we went on to New York, where we visited my friend Steve Rosenthal and
Patty Karen.
Patty Karen.
This is our first apartment in Bloomington and our little kitten that we took in. This is our first meal, very first meal. And here is another view of the apartment. I made thank you notes by hand in those days, and Irwin actually put up with a cat sitting on his shoulder. Our friends came to visit us on motorcycles.
Roger and Ron.
There they are, bringing their suitcases and sleeping bags. And here we are at Brown County in our famous Mustang, visiting our friends. And then it was off to Tougaloo for a summer of upward bound and life in the Deep South. These are our students. It was a very sobering and interesting summer. We're visiting one of our students out on his cotton picking farm.
This is an interesting story. This student, Larry, only got into the program because he petitioned directly to Robert F. Kennedy to get in. It was a very interesting experience for us, taking black students through the South. We were asked to leave at least one restaurant, but these are just some pictures of what it was like in the Mississippi Delta.
And, of course, our first meal at Tougaloo College was pig's ears, not Irwin's favorite. And then off to Expo with Will Grant.
Later that summer, Montreal. It was an interesting experience. This is the Iranian pavilion. Of course, Iran was still our friend at the time. That is the Soviet pavilion you're about to see, the curved pavilion there. This is the U.S. pavilion. And here's a shot of the distorted image of the Russian pavilion through the U.S. pavilion. Of course, the reason we were in Bloomington is that I was in grad school in physics. It was a very heady time, a lot of political activity. Here's one example. Does anyone recognize this presidential candidate? Yes, it's Eugene McCarthy. There was a big student push to get a liberal president like him, and along with Eugene McCarthy came several entertainers, including
Tom Lear. All this took place in Dunn Meadow, and Peter, Paul, and Mary. And the meadow was full of students in hippie dress, cheering and cheering. There they are, singing away, Peter, Paul, and Mary. And then we took our first vacation, our first big vacation, to the Yucatan. We found all kinds of ruins that were being torn down to build the road, which was not even a road when we were there. This was the road to Tulum, folks, 2 lanes. We hitchhiked with somebody that we met who had a VW bus.
We ran out of food and it got dark, and we stopped to sleep at this beautiful lagoon, which later became the National Park of Shelcha.
And here we are walking down the road trying to figure out where to find food. There were, of course, no place to stop. And then suddenly we came upon the beautiful ruin of Tulum.
There were 2 little boys selling Pepsi-Cola, of all things. We had Tulum all to ourselves for 3 nights.
We were invited to stay at the lighthouse by Gumersindo, this very Rousseauian character, handsome. He would get out and spearfish every day for us to have something to eat. We would play poker by kerosene.
We wanted to give him a gift, so we walked into the village of Tulum about an hour away. Everyone spoke Mayan except for the school teacher. Most of the people were involved in chicleros.
And then we finally bought our chicken and walked back through the jungle. And then we went to visit my sister in the very civilized Oregon.
That's Susie and John. And my parents would invite us several times down to Florida, where they vacationed in the winter. We also took vacations with our friends, camping. We did quite a bit of camping in southern Indiana.
We were very
Bowman.
poor.
Yeah, but it was fun.
It was very fun.
We had the tent. And then one summer we got together with Barry and my other fraternity brother Joel, and we discovered that all the women were pregnant. That was the summer of 1970.